Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Going to be running the show tonight myself until Ransom comes along with us here. He's enjoying the pre-holidays. So let me know if you can hear me. Just had running the software myself tonight. So if you do, give me a 5x5 here on the chat so we can take a look through. I'm going to make sure, switch a few microphones, changing out. Oh, there it is. I do hear myself. Okay, here we go. Well, the actual repricing of the world's here. I got this list of notes that I've been banging on for, I don't know, the last 3 days trying to compile a story. I was going to be doing this one more in depth today for the Patreon crowd. It's going to be, multi slides and pages long here, but I wanted to get into it tonight a little bit because it's super important for everybody on the planet to understand this. The repricing and the movement of all monies is changing as of this month. So when they say it's the beginning of a new world, it truly is. And this, when we look back in history 100 years from now, this month of July, interestingly, the 250th anniversary of America, is going to be a huge turning point for all of the planet. I actually watched that hour and a half, almost 2 hours from the DTCC, Depository Trust Clearing Corporation, on how they're using a full global system of tokenized everything to move money around so there'll never be a lag in payment. Nobody will ever default again, at least, for the next decades or so, as everything we own turns into a digital representation of what was. And then it's pledged into this collateral base, meaning all the property in America has a value to it, and then it is put in the trillions of dollars into this pool of money that somebody in Japan that's trading stocks can pull from if they need to cover something that they went out too long on, like 100-to-1 cover, and they're losing money and they're losing billions, and bank's gonna default. They'll just pull the money in from somewhere else across the planet, and these pools of money are everywhere, and they're gonna be in the hundreds of trillions of dollars available at literally the click of a button to bring that in seconds and settle any debt that's going bad for banks and governments. Now, I watched the video, so I'm going to show you some slides from it. The heat wave going on, obviously, and they're saying 99. Paris is 99%, or France is 99% hotter than the rest of the world, and then just today, America is 99% hotter than the rest of the world. Seems to be a popular news topic that they want to use for headlines. Gold prices they're looking at a 184% spike here coming up the next, month, as China starts to break the CME with their paper contracts, leveraged 100-to-1 negative, going on the short side. China's moving in everything. And by the way, so I'm just going to try to lay it out here on just a grander scheme of things. Come into the weather in just a second. The heat is, the heat's the heat, and we'll talk about that. China is now, instead of having to, in the old days, like we would get the money and you get, let's say, a treasury bond, you clear it in America and you say, I want my money back, and then you give it back, and then you get it, and it would come and it would take, but it always came back into like a central place in America here. China is now setting up these like gold depots, for the best term, a gold vault across the world in all these different places. So if you're going to do some transaction in Africa, you stay in the gold vault in Africa. That's a representation of China. They're filling all the gold vaults as we speak, and they are going on a tear. They have been buying 15 times more gold than they've told the planet or anybody, even with those, the shadow figures, has been a look to see what they're going. So apparently this is coming from everybody across the gold space now. 60 years of suppression is finishing. They're going to have to revalue gold. And I said, well, if that's true, there got to be a signal around somewhere. It must have to be. So let me share the first one for you here. The freedom ringing bells. Now notice the date on it. I highlighted there. The pricing for this new 1 ounce stamped gold bell this is from United States Mint, goes on sale July 16th, which is after our 250th anniversary. You think they would have done it before that, like at the beginning of the year. But they're revaluing this 1 ounce of gold stamp, 19,600. It's not even like a proof coin. So I understand the proof coins. I was looking at the Liberties earlier on here. So let's use $70 for a round figure for silver. I know it's a little lower, but just for the ease of the math, their proof coin's $170. So to make that super pretty, ultra high relief stamp, and then they put it in a box, and then they issue certificates on it. So you know, a certificate of authenticity that matches with this one numismatically, and you can barcode and scan it. So it takes another operation to run a database to load that QR code into their whatever database it is. All right, so there's a whole chain of extras that are included in. That's why you pay more for a proof coin. It's not you're getting the metal. And we love air conditioning. I would say turn your aircon down to 72. Flex the muscles, turn it down to 72. And you know, that is a direct drop the ball from many a nation across the planet to go to 100% renewables if they can. You telling me to turn my air conditioner up to 76 is a complete failure by your institutions and government. If you need me to turn up to 76, you failed. Completely failed. Not only your energy policy, but the infrastructure upkeep and the implementation to have more and more reliable power sources moving out like nuclear. I know a lot of people don't like that, but they got the pebble bed nuclear reactors now. It's not even, it's a pebble bed. They lay on a bed. It's completely different. They're small nuclear reactors. Completely different. This is why everybody wants to go get the uranium, because processing these into these small pebbles that lay out literally on a bed and you don't need to submerge them in water is a full game changer. Still produces the electricity. What happened to our coal industry? All those people across the coal belt in America. I mean, towns devastated. I mean, drugs are bad enough, but I mean, just reducing and taking an entire industry out that built up over 100 years, that was more devastating. Natural gas, love it. Permian Basin, gotta have it. Why is that? Why are we sitting here even having a debate that we need to turn up our air conditioners? That's a full failure on levels from above all the way down. And you can blame it on every single one of the politicians because they're just in there for the money. They're just in there to keep their jobs. And I would say if our GDP falls below like 3% or something, that they all need to removed and we 100% replace everybody new until they figure it out. Because I'm sure we would have a much better functioning country if their jobs were on the line for underperformance. I mean, every country, I mean, except for the DEI garbage now, if you didn't perform at a company, you were fired. Now you got all these whatevers in there that don't know how to do anything, but they're just there because of some mandate for them to be there because of arbitrary being born someplace or some way with some parents in some economic strata gets you a special position. Well, you see why things are falling apart. Duct tape and baling wire to keep everything together. You were fired when it was mismanaged like that. That's how we became the behemoth in America, like rising and having, you know, and controlling pretty much the world in manufacturing and operations, and you know, and then the rest of the world took that on, and there was efficiencies by the best people. That's why we expanded. When you reverse that and put the inept people that can't do anything, can't add 2 + 2 because they think it equals 6 someday on a thing, no wonder your airplanes are falling out of the sky. No wonder the railroads are falling apart. Things are breaking and we can't keep our air cons on. We got to turn to set now. Emergency, turn them off completely in Europe. It came to that point where they completely shut down air conditioners. This is at the EU Commission headquarters. Now, what I talk about, just this incredible embarrassment. The EU Commission headquarters had to emergency shut down their air conditioners because of blackouts that were going to roll through multiple countries. But of course, the aristocrats on floors 7 through 12 got to keep the aircon on. Everybody working in floor 1 to 7 had to turn the aircon off emergency, but then it was too hot because they can't open the windows because of security glass, and they had to send everybody home. This is what you get when you rely on renewables. They took away their nuclear. I can't believe Germany. Germany gets what it deserves. I mean, you can't tell me that destroying all the coal power plants, turning off and decommissioning all nuclear power plants, relying on solar and wind, and you're going to have an economy. You just see what happens. So I'll come back to that in just a moment here. But if this is true and China is now going to start actively taking all the gold and silver off the planet into their repositories, they need to absolutely break the Chicago Mercantile Exchange paper trade and shred it to where they get so pained out that a physical rally and a physical reality comes to us. This is what's planned before July 24th. And what's so interesting is China's already planning on this and working on it actively, telling everybody in the world, get ready. If you're short on any gold markets paper, we're going to crush you. They're telling you actively out here, get ready for that. So there's a huge amount of people trying to cover the shorts. That is the reason the gold price went from 5,000, especially in this last 2 weeks, way down below 4,000. All these people are trying to get out of their short trades to push the price down, exit with less loss, because China's coming with a steamroller to take every paper contract and burn it to the ground. They want the physical, and they're telling you. So here's so interesting. Now, why is our mint revaluing the gold? I know it's a commemorative coin. I get it. $4,000 gold, and you're paying $20,000 for a commemorative? Nah, it doesn't make sense. Even at the most outrageous, it could be a doubling, which would put an 8,000. I'll be generous and say 11,000. And then another one as well. If we move over to the silver, showing very much the same thing. They have silver at $750, and that's a half ounce, but I'll be generous and round it up to a single ounce coin. Silver's going to get revalued as well. So maybe the 250-year surprise is for us to take that $42 paper value from the 1960s and bring it up to today's value of, like, let's say 5,000 or 10,000 or 11,000. That would give us this price overnight. And that would be the real price. Gold should be around $11,360 according to many. And if it does go up and then suddenly you're, okay, let's say you bought, let's say you've been buying in, you got 1,000 ounces of silver, which you're lucky if you do. Do you think the government's going to let you keep almost $1 million worth of silver right away? Boom, all of a sudden you can pay off all your debts, you can pay off everything, there's nothing, and then you still got money left over? Or do you think they're going to start putting some stipulations on this and like hitting you with serious capital gains taxes, or starting to tax it at like 90% profit when you step in? Because a revaluation like this takes us into hyperinflation, and it really sends a signal that something's very, very broken, that our money supply is absolutely not working. Which makes sense if you're going to digitize everything, because you're going away from the dollar. The dollar problems will be taken away if they can digitize all assets and put them onto a chain and issue coins against that can be used around the world, because that will artificially prop up the need for our DTCC system. Since we're the drivers of it, since we invented it and we created it, and now all the major banks around the world are in it to it, something is about to change. So far, what I got out of confirmed in Chinese media, which is, you know, usually less or lowballed. Singapore exchange goes on, Hong Kong, physical gold, Africa and South America, but they didn't tell the locations of the cities. But for sure on July 24th, the Hong Kong repository and the Singapore repository, plus the Shanghai repository, all go live. They're buying currently 3.5 tons per day of gold, and some have said up to 15 tons per day. And as these repositories start to get filled, especially there's 2 in Africa and 2 in South America, but the cities are unknown, then the amount of gold will be at that clip. That's why London ran out of the 400-ounce bars, because China bought them all. Everything in America that's on paper, that's on silver or gold, needs to de-risk and de-leverage, meaning they need to sell it and get rid of it, or they're going to take the massive losses. Because all these guys are selling short to try to press the price of silver and gold down. And some of these I saw were 100-to-1 leveraged out. So it means if you're using $1 of real money, you can buy $100 worth. So if you had $1,000, you're trading $100,000 worth of. That's coming to an end. And I will say every central bank on the planet is now on the physical and has dropped their paper. The only country left playing this paper trade is the United States at the level it is. This is going to be a sell-off here coming in, and they're going to try to suppress the price one more time down. But after July 24th, that is a magic day. They're no longer going to be able to control the paper prices according to pretty much every analyst out there on the planet. Once China hits this go button, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange and the COMEX will have to deal with physical reality again, and they will have to start pricing and moving in physical. The paper trade, as we know it, will be done pretty much on the planet. Even the Bank for International Settlements is now saying that the paper needs to go. We need to go back to finish or to physical. Cornish cross for the plate and fertilizer. Barred rock for the garden. Yeah, barred rocks are great egg layers, by the way, and they're big foragers for insects and whatnot. Guinea 2 for the ticks. We're talking to people about ticks, and they're saying that tick season this year is outrageously outrageous in Tennessee. I got the farm, so I got a fair few ticks on me a number of times. You go out in the forest, you do work for a whole day, even though you sprayed a little bit, you might get a tick run up on you. Apparently, these are like 10 ticks will be running up on you now. And it depends on how small or large they are, because if you get those pin ticks, they can get in between your fingers right here, and then they got to grow a little bit, suck some blood, and then you notice them. But you can get a bunch of small ones on you before they start to grow. So we would always come back in, I don't care how hot it was outside, and just take that water to almost scalding. The hottest you can possibly stand it. And then you got a washcloth and sponge with dish soap, and you scrub your whole body off, because A, the soap will suffocate them, and B, they don't like that heat, and generally you can knock them off. If you don't do, and the chiggers as well, those nasty little things, they'll get on. You can knock them off. You got about 3 to 4 hour window of getting that hot shower and soap water on you to get rid of all the nasties that came on out of the forest or the field with you. Chiggers are rough. Remember the one time when I got the farm, I went out and we were bush hogging the backfield, taking down the tall grass. It was probably 3 feet tall, driving a four-wheeler and had that pull behind. It's 48-inch wide, got 6 blades inside. It'll cut through small trees up to, 3/4 of an inch and stuff. But I came back in and I was like, I'm tired. Let me go eat dinner, do this. And it was 5 or 6 hours, maybe later, by the time I finally got around to really getting a hot shower. I got 30 of those chigger bites on me. It was so painful. I had to go to the doctor to get prednisone. And, or wasn't it prednisone? It was the one you take first day's 5, and then the next one's 4 and 3 and then 2 and then 1. I actually had to sleep with socks on my hands because I wanted to itch so badly. It was the most incredible, itchy, unbelievable, painful experience of an insect bite I've ever had in my life. So for me, going through that one time, never again. It's probably like getting stung by an electric eel or something. I got stung by a man-o-war jellyfish surfing one time in Hawaii. I always wear a rash guard now because of that. Just, those things will change you. Once something happens to you that's painful enough, you're like, well, if I can get away from that happening again, I'm absolutely going to try. So the ticks are running amok this year. And there's reports of people saying that boxes of ticks have been discovered around their property and this sort of thing. Not sure so much about that, but, beware if you're going to be out there. And let's drop into a couple news. I want to run you through the news first. I'm going to start with our home news here. Just Judge Report. Used to be really good back in the day, but now it's you can get some stories off of here. But one I wanted to point out to you that got my attention first. Okay, shock poll, Americans don't even know why they're celebrating. If anniversary of the founding of the country after the signing of the Declaration of Independence, something like this, moving forward. It's an anniversary. Usually there's an event behind it. It's sad that people don't even know that we were at war with the British for a while. You talk about the War of 1812, and the Civil War. Most people are familiar with that, but even the Revolutionary War, people don't even know what sides we're fighting, which is strange for me. How can you not know that? But anyway, I'm going to bring you down here. DC hotter than 99% of the world. This is one of the tags that I saw. 99% of the world, and I'm like, you know what? I've just been doing a lot of research on the heat wave in France and Germany and around, and the crops are getting destroyed across there. And lo and behold, what do I see? The same heat. Look right here. Follow my mouse. Crazy heat wave. France was hotter than 99% of the planet. Oh, DC is about to be hotter than 99% of the world. This seems to be the headline. Now, it did get hot. I get it. It got hot. It's called summer. By the way, hey, if anybody didn't know, there's this time of the year. It's called summer. It gets hot. And there, you know what? I tell you, I forget it. You know, there's this other time of the year when it gets really cold. It's called winter. Happens every year. Just get prepared for it. There's a time when it's hot in the year. You know it's hot every year. But these two headlines, you know, and it's also I've seen those same headlines where they're like, Canada's warming two times faster than the rest of the planet. Australia's warming 2 times faster than the rest of the planet. New Zealand's warming 2 times faster than us. America's warming. That's another real popular one. I encourage you to go online. There's a whole bunch of collages. I even did one in a couple presentations when I was speaking. Yeah, somewhere else is hotter than 2 times on the planet, but then it covers 70 or 80 countries. So, you know, then you look at it with a little bit of like, what's that all about? So let's look through Drudge. I'm going to bring you up here for a second. Stocks record high again. The switchover is coming. Wanted to go into the stocks record high. It's a super important article to know what's coming up because you can kind of judge where this crash is going to come after that. All right, so there's this rotation happening here too. The World Cup, awesome. The Heat, I hope it opens the eyes to just the full officials that are in power that shouldn't have any power because the choices they make and the legislation they pass has put us in dire straits. At that point, that's, again, you should be fired. Absolutely. Any state that has gone on rolling brownouts, and a mayor of New York City, I forget his name, the guy who just got elected, if you're telling your citizens up there to turn up the air conditioning, you have the problem. Not the citizens using aircon, you, your infrastructure, your state. Anybody in those areas that had real political say into what got turned on, turned off, destroyed, or built, they need to be removed from power. Just literally, you've lost your seat. We're going to have a snap election tomorrow. You can't fulfill and stay in your position any longer. That was such an egregious error that we need to find anybody better than you, just somebody, anybody, and we're going to start from scratch again. And maybe we could do a little bit of pre-interviewing somebody to see if they actually have business experience or some sort of experience in the industry they're supposed to represent and vote on versus being a DEI hire candidate put there because of your sex, your race, your disability, your language, your nationality, your zip code, your upbringing, your schooling, what state you're from. Just all these ridiculousness things that have nothing to do with operating a country. It's kind of gone off the deep edge on that. Anywhere you're having brownouts, we need to replace the entire government. And if it's somehow subsidized and related to national issues, those people need to be removed as well, and we need to put a new crew in there to try to fix these problems. So the rotation of capital is coming in, and there's going to be a massive market crash coming up here somewhere. I'm calling August. It'll probably roll down through, middle September. And then once the DTCC goes live with 100% tokenization of all assets on the planet, like when they said you own nothing and be happy, that's beginning in November. They're going to strip every asset ownership that you have. You think you own it on paper, you no longer own it on paper. Somebody else owns it as a pooled capital amount that then is going to be swapped around the planet to prevent banking and financial crisis. You really will own nothing after November. So at that point, you should see the biggest, most massive, if you think the stocks are high now, you've seen nothing yet. They're going to correct down a sliver. But once the DTC, and once we start digitizing and tokenizing, I'm talking quadrillions of assets on the planet. Everything's moving to a new money system. Once that starts to run, the amount of available money is going to increase by multi-trillions per day, just how fast it will move. And then the amount of money that'll be brought in, for example, you love my White Radish mug, I can assign a value to this, and then suddenly there's this new value on a tokenized market that wasn't there yesterday. How much you give me for this? 50 cents? All right, great. Times 100 million households. We got 50 million new dollars that just popped out of nowhere of this new tokenized asset class called Lovely Coffee Mugs. Everything will have a value. Okay. How about my Blue Moon pen? Would you give me 5 cents for this to tokenize it? Okay, there's probably 1 billion pens laying around the world times 5 cents. Okay, you just created a new asset class, and suddenly there's value there that can be on this new tokenized chain, and you can start to just go through everything you own. How much for the remote controller here? There's actual physical plastic in it, plus there's some metals. Would you give me 50 cents for this? Okay, let's tokenize it. So every single remote control out there now has a 50-cent value associated with it. How many of those are on the planet? Okay, you created a new asset class by creating value out of a possible recycle in the future sometime, but there is a value associated with it now. So we just created another $50 million just based on what people have in their home. This is what they're doing. They're going through every single thing on the planet. An acre of forest, the water, they're going to start to tokenize water and forests and animals and everything. So the amount of new money that's coming into the system is going to blow your mind wide open. This is how the US debt's going to be written away, by the way. So Dow scores record fresh despite people losing their jobs and whatnot. So we are at all-time highs here, and I like to scroll through the articles because I don't read these. Like when I'm reading them, you're fresh with me, but I like to speed read and look through until I find a thing, and I really didn't find much in this category there. So what I would like to do maybe is then come down to our slides here from the DTCC, and I'm gonna go ahead and load us up because I want to walk you through. I'm going to save you hours of time here, and we're going to take a look at what the DTCC had shown me. Okay, let's open this thing up here. I want to share that with you. So they have this dashboard that comes with it. And hold on, I'm trying to find my window. Got too many windows open. Real time here. There we go. That is not exactly the one I wanted to show you there. So let me see. I'm going to stop sharing again. Got to find the exact window I was in. And my camera, as you can see, right in the middle of my way there. Oh, here it is, this one. Okay, so let me walk you through what is currently happening with the DTCC. This is their back dashboard, and unless you get, I had an invite to come in and take a look at it. So not available for public, but it is available for public. You just need to get an invite to go check out the video, and then you're free to do with what you want with that. All right, so this is how the back dashboard works. So these are the tokens that are from, let's say, firm A, like JP Morgan or Bank of America or something. These are tokenized commodities, and it'll show you which ledger it's running on, whether it be a Polygon or Ethereum or whatever it is, whatever Avalanche C chain. Now, to create one of these tokenized contracts, you need to lock up 15 stellar lumens to just activate the contract before you put anything in the wallet to hold the contract. And then you can see the price per share that they're coming off on this. And they got treasuries in here, and they got all these things. But notice the value on it here. I'll show you some of the values in here. And you can see who owns it. Is it on Benji? Is it on BAT? Is it on BlackRock's Build? So, you know, 127 million in this fund that they can pull from, 14 million on this one, 32 million. Most of them are in the low teens to maybe, you know, 9-figure range, like 338 million, something like that, 8-figure range. Of 33 million. So any ones that have 33303, I always try to scoop over and, you know, see what was that marked. Oh, so BlackRock Build. So all the treasuries in the entire U.S. system are now in this thing here. and they're going by tranche. The way they were sold, they're now in like one basket here. So each one of these will have an assigned value to it, 115 million, 116 million. Now, the reason I show you that is if I'm a bank somewhere and I'm in trouble, I can just kind of slide in here and grab onto some of this. So like if somebody in New York's in trouble, they can jump into the Tokyo basket and vice versa. So if there's a problem with Japanese stocks, and like, hey, our stocks are collapsing, we gotta push a bunch of money in to try to buy them all back. They just simply dip in over here to the New York margin core. And again, what some of any possible security that is available on our stock market or any stock market across the world is in this system now. And it's super interesting to watch how the video works, where if you got Apple stock and they need to say, we need to borrow, so they got 1 million shares of Apple just sitting in this fund. It's like a pool of 1 million shares of Apple. So if anybody around the world is starting to falter and their markets are selling off, they just simply pull from this pool and they say, we'll pay you back later. See, our pool's over here, and eventually it'll balance out over the next few hours of the next day, and we'll put it back in later. So look at the amount of total value of stocks just in these contract folder pools for the best term. You got 1 million shares of Apple, 1 million shares of Disney, DTE, I forget which electric company that is, million there. So each one of these is holding 1 million shares just for a backup in a digital format in their system. And somebody in Tokyo or somebody in Paris or somebody in London can just come in and grab that in case they get in trouble. And what they're not, they could use the shares themselves, or they can use the value of that tokenized share. So Apple, you can convert it into US Treasury bond, you can convert it into dollars, or you can keep it as the share itself. And this allows them to then move monies and get monies. So maybe they don't want the anything to do with Apple. They're just like, all right, there's 1 million shares there. There's a couple $100 million in this. We need $200 million. Let's convert that over into US dollars. They'll leave some actual real shares in there, but they'll pull the value out of it, which is insane. And it works in almost real time. And here's the cross dashboard of what they would want to do for something like that. So if they're getting a margin call or a margin call somewhere else, margin core in Paris can pull in the money from the DTTC on Apple, and they just call how many shares they need. So there's $1 million there. They'll call it in, convert it over into dollars, and then those shares in the digital format, they're still there, but they're pulling the dollar equity out of the share, even though the share's there. And then they put the dollar back, equity value back on the share, and then reconnect them, and then they're the share that you would get like yourself as an individual person just going to buy a share. What's interesting is they're able to split these two where the liquidity is needed. They're not actually using the Apple share, although that's a possibility to use it. It's like, okay, I got a mango smoothie here for this morning because I'm in Asia, so I'm still in morning time. So the way I could do is I could take all the mango out and I could take the water out. And then somebody can use the water for a little bit, and then they replace the water, and then they put the mango back in, and then I get the same thing back again after all the transactions are finished. So this is the way, nothing's ever going to fail again, according to them, with this. So the Paris pool, again, when each one of these major cities that we consider trading hubs in every single nation, like Frankfurt has one in Germany, the London one in England. I forget where the other ones are across Europe, but there's multiples around. Even Romania has their own over there. And then obviously in Istanbul, they have their own. So every single one of these, look at the vast amounts of values that are sitting in these pools of capital available to be drawn out like in a second, like 28 million, 13 million, 54 million, 72 million. That is just, I want to say that you're not even scraping the beginning of the top layer of surface of this thing. We're talking about quadrillions of dollars that can be flipped and swapped in just seconds, so there's never a market correction or crash again. The problem is there's this old system in the way, and it needs to get out of the way to bring the new system in. Now, as was explained in the Bank for International Settlements and the DTCC is. They've run the tests on this. They've done a lot of testing, but so far the world markets have only gone up during their like coding and platform build out. They've never had a full-on contagion market crash to test the conditions in. So, I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist with them saying that to know that, okay, their entire system goes live in November. So they need to have a, maybe not a 1929 crash, but a full meltdown, 1980s style, 2008 for a sliver of time, down correcting so they can break test this thing on a down correction. And then it should level out and then right back up again. But they need to test it going down. They have a very small amount of time. So you do the math with me. We're in July, and this whole thing goes live in November. So you got all of July, all of August, all of September, all of October. Got 4 months, and then this thing goes live. But they haven't tested it, like I say, in down conditions, which they plan to. 250th anniversary of America. Nothing's going to happen this month. They need to make the country look prosperous. They need to bring more people back in. They need to get Michael Saylor out of his conundrum, because they can't let that failure happen, because nobody will believe in crypto, and then all these BlackRock ETFs and all this stuff will go, nobody will want to touch them. So somebody's going to rescue Saylor by bringing the Bitcoin price back up. I would say somewhere between 75 and 85,000. Once it gets out around in August, look for a massive crash. It'll be a flash. It won't be long. It won't be like 2008 dragging on, or 2009 for years. It'll be like 3 months. And then this system goes live. So far, these are the super biggest pools here that were shown in the video. So that the collateral sources coming out of pretty much everything on the planet are going to be coming through JazDeck, over in Japan, or Japan and Asia area. Got Euroclear, obviously Euro. Clearstream, that's all the other developed nations. DTCC, that is us here in America. And BNY, that's a banking consortium. Now look where the DLTs, the distributed ledger, they're going to run on. Canton and Ethereum, for those of you and me in the public space out here. And they're going to be using USDC Circle, not USD Tether. So they're already showing you what is going to be used here. Now Fireblocks, I've seen a fair bit, because that's all connected with Canton. Now Canton coin currently around 15 cents. So looking at this, going, all right, every single thing worth money on the entire planet is going to get into this system here. Do you think that thing that's using that into the system in Ethereum as well? Do you think those might go up in price? Not financial advice at all. I'm just looking at it going, if they're going to be using this, do you think the use case for it is going to be, I don't know, do you think more people are going to be interested in using it and looking at this thing? Just a question. Because institutional wallets is where this thing goes in, and they are using USDC for all the CAD. Now look what they're going to be tokenizing first. They're going to come for your pen and your coffee cup second. Your real estate will be in here. So look what they're going to tokenize first. Cash. How much cash? 23 trillion, I do believe. Our treasuries, 40 trillion, I do believe. Just American numbers here. The funds, we're coming up in the trillions. The equities, now think about every stock and bond, or just let's start with stocks. Every stock on Wall Street, what's the total value of that? Over 100 trillion. All right, the debts and securities, again, that's anything owed against something else. Now, there was a gray area on this. Did it include real estate or did it not? Because they were talking, you know, tens of trillions about real estate. Stable coins and crypto. So this is what they're all going to be tokenizing first, and their available pool of capital will bring them to somewhere around $450 trillion day one. That's a lot of money. That's just America. And it's going to happen with every single nation on the planet here. Some central banks are too small to operate in this, so they're going to go to, like Nigeria's central bank is going to swoop up, like Central Africa Republic, Ghana, what's the other one down? Togo and Benin, those smaller nations are going to get swooped into the Nigerian umbrella. And then they'll oversee that and then redistribute out. So it's central bank for more centralized regions. So how much money is down there in the stock market in Nigeria? What about their oil wealth? What about their mineral wealth, the gold, all these things? How about all those other nations that are major gold producers like Ghana? We're talking trillions down there too. So as they were looking around the entire planet, something around $3.7 quadrillion comes in the system day one. That's what I'm saying. They're revaluing everything. Everything's going to be on a completely different system as this starts here. So they did this live exercise here where they went around all these different places that each had a financial crisis going on, and they just pulled money in from another place, and whoop, financial crisis stopped instantly. So this allows an enormous amount of money to move from place to place in just under 1 minute. They were able to clear out $100 million of bad debt in 1 minute by pulling from another place. Like they even marked it up there, market crash begins. So as the time zones were going around, the primary person who had the most problem was Tokyo, because when they needed the liquidity the most, all the other markets were closed, like London, New York. They couldn't access them because of the time zone difference. They were going into a full market meltdown. But with this new system, it trades 24 hours a day. So they're like, no problem. We're going to pull from London and Paris and New York, and we're going to lump it all over into here, and there was no more rundown. Because just yesterday, being here in Asia, Japanese currency went to 163 yen to the dollar. They were about to lose and melt down their entire currency yesterday. As much as we crashed in like 2008 and 2009 in America, they were about to do that yesterday. And magically, all this money came flowing in from somewhere and stopped the crash. And now their money recovered from like 163 yen to about 160 per dollar. Overnight, no less. So I'm saying this is already live, even though they say the testing. I'm saying there's, behind the scenes, it's already happening. Because in the old days, you'd have woken up this morning and Asia would have completely crashed and it would have been wiping out stock market after stock market as the globe spins around. Like if this system wasn't in play already, which I guarantee it's already in play, they're just telling the public it's going to test live on July 8th, we would have seen something in like the 1999 meltdown or the 1987 crash. It would have been of that magnitude. You're talking taking down Japan's entire economy and everything associated, and Korea dropped 8% exactly at the same time. So two major like super developed markets were going down yesterday. And suddenly, trillions flowed in and they're good today. But this is what's crazy is this is the exact same scenario that was in this slideshow and video. Japan had an emergency and they couldn't get the liquidity, but suddenly they did. So if you understand any of this pricing structure in here, like the overnight repo market, if you're involved in that, there's going to be no more overnight repo market where one bank will lend you emergency money for 5% overnight. That market's gone. That's going to be obliterated. You won't need it. You just press a button and go, thanks for the money, at like 1/10%. And it flows instantly. So all those middlemen involved in all that transaction to get the money overnight from this place to that place to that place, and then it finally arrives like 4 steps, you're out of business. This is 1 step, 1 computer module, 1 computer monitor, to pull money in from one nation to another to stop a complete market meltdown like yesterday in real time with 1 person behind 1 computer clicking 1 mouse. AI is going to ruin and just rip apart this financial system here. So here, also another interesting thing, follow my mouse, they're going to be using Bitcoin as collateral on the system here. Yep. So whatever happens with BTC over the next thing, they need to rescue Michael Saylor, because that ship, if it sinks, that's a Titanic of everything crypto to pull all the normies into it. If that ship sinks, ain't no normies coming back for a decade. So Bitcoin is collateral on their thing here. Equally as valuable as gold and US treasuries. So they've already set this BTC as a asset class that can be used. So it's definitely not going to be going down to nothing as many. What is it? Peter Schiff always talks about that. Sorry, Peter. They are moving over to a new system. Let me see what else we might have up in here. And just an anecdotal piece on top of this. The reason I'm pointing to August, we got the 250th anniversary in America. Trump and the whole economic team's not going to let a market crash happen during the 250th anniversary. That would be an embarrassment, as much as having you turn your aircon up. An embarrassment. So there's a couple traders, and even CZ follows this guy as one of the top traders on the planet. Goes opposite the market, and then the market flips. This guy's almost like a time traveler that saw the market crashes and these weird things that nobody ever saw, and he's the only one out of everybody that picked it, and just like, so anyway, he's shorting stuff during times of markets going up. So this guy says, big pump in July coming up for altcoins, crypto, stock market, obviously. After the World Cup ends, because the world's euphoric at that time. You know, it's all about euphoria. Notice the date, July 19th. That's pretty much coming in with July 24th, CME smack to the head when China buys all the gold. It's after the DTCC starts going live with their test. So once that makes news, Stellar Lumen's probably going to go up and all things crypto, because, hey, the new system for the world's money just started. It's in testing. So like there's a bunch of euphoric things happening at this time. And if gold gets revalued during this time, everybody's going to be like, whoa, gold got revalued to 11,300. Whoa. And just be a lot more money floating around the system. And we printed again, and we're up around 23 trillion of print. Just saw that, came by on the newswire earlier today. And so some of these forecasts out for Bitcoin and thing, they might not be correct. Because if you were looking up here anyway, none of this, for those of you, you know, they were trying to pick the market and time it up and be like, oh no. Did you notice there's a disconnect here happening at the moment? So the last Bitcoin tops, if you follow the logarithmic chart, they always would touch this top line. And everybody looking for the signals this time, we're waiting for it to touch the top to exit. It never got anywhere close, which means that it's being manipulated and controlled by big money now, the institutional, traditional institute, or the TIF, if you want to call it that. Who's that? Simon Dixon calls it the TIF, the technological infrastructure and financial infrastructure mafia. They control that now. So I'm saying that this is not going to go as deep either. It's going to end short. If this didn't perform because it was manipulated, then the bottom's going to be manipulated as well, and it's probably going to correct faster than the traditional just following the cycle till it does its thing. Now it's already at the bottom. They were just, you know, arguing about, does it go like another couple thousand down? Is Bitcoin to go to 55,000 or 49,000 before it corrects? Well, it's already correcting from like 57, already up above 61. So this might have been at the bottom and it would come up. The whole thing is about how much stability and people believe is in the market. So here is where the rubber meets the road, at least for me on this. If you look in different fractal charts, all these things that are happening now, this is in the beginning of July, and it's kind of on Q2 because we're in the what's that? Second, third day here. Everything's starting to come up again out of the doldrums. The 250th anniversary is a super important one. All this extra liquidity that's coming in under these new schemes is another super important one. World Cup ends, the world's going to be euphoric. Believe it or not, those of you listening to America, this is the biggest event on the planet in 4 years. So the energy around this thing. So as we come up, and again, this puts it at the top pretty much around August, where most people are predicting as well, August, that, and then it will get that slide down to September. It might bounce up a little bit, but somewhere around October, then we're back up again. I do believe this is the trajectory it's going to take myself. Not financial advice, just fractal patterns. And so many factors that are pushing in to show that money around the world's moving into a different form. real solid money of gold and silver is being used again, and that will also be used in a different form. And it just shows that when the market does roll over at the top, this is the test period for the DTCC on a downtrend to see if they can break their software somehow when so much money and liquidity is needed and the full market across the planet is all going down at the same time, not just one country or one region, the whole market down like the great financial crisis crash, but a very, 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 very abbreviated version of it, just to test it for that 1 month, maybe. This is what's in store for us. So for me, people, I'm with Bob Kudlin. I like to use the software and everything. I only would try to pick the big moves. I'm not like a day trade. If I'd trade, it would be like once or twice a month, maybe once a quarter. Just depends. Where's the biggest move? Because I'm not interested in trying to get a penny here and a penny there, a penny. I'm interested in locking it in and just waiting for that. And then doing something around and making a different decision if it goes up or down, and then just wait. Like this is a perfect trader trade. Like if this was me taking trades, I would have taken one here, one here, one here, 2, 3. So for a whole year, it's like 5 or 6 trades. Like some of those guys like Bob, a professional, they're rolling in like, I don't know, countless, moves per day. They're rolling through all kind of different commodities and equities and thing. Money market funds, index funds, all these things, ETFs. They're doing that on a daily because they got computers to help them. I'm a guy looking at a screen going, what else is in store for us? So I hope that explained it. Let's see, they do not care one bit about public opinion. Yeah, the wealth transfer. That's exactly right. The only thing is, I'm wondering if this wealth transfer, when it comes in, like, how are they going to move the money in earnest around? Like, how's it going to work? So let's jump over and take you through some world news headlines today, because you're only seeing what you see. But what's the rest of the world talking about is the question. Like, what's the rest of the world hitting on here? So I like to run through every single newspaper at least. I have 4, 5, 6 of these bookmarked on my computer. So now Japan's looking to India because of the supply chain and energy concerns. Okay, so what else is happening here? They're trying to raise the minimum wage target. So right now it's 61, or let's say 60 to $1. So this is their minimum wage in Japan is 25. Let me do a calculator on that exactly here. Let's see, 1,500, and we'll just divide it by 61 just to be good. Yeah, their minimum wage is $24.59, or let's say $25. So that's in Japan, minimum wage $25. It used to be one of the most expensive places on the planet, but not anymore. Now here's another interesting one too that I've seen some inklings and rumblings of. Sony's going to end video game production at the end of 2028. Well, what does that mean for you and me? I'm not a game player, but I understand what it means, because when I was a kid, I had Atari and all that stuff. We had those little, wasn't even a disc, man. It was a little cartridge you plopped in that thing. I wish I would have kept all that. That's all worth money now. So Sony Interactive is going to stop manufacturing discs, meaning that you're only going to be able to use a subscription platform only. And after that, you're only going to be able to get it in digital form. So the whole world's moving to this only subscription thing. This is when you say you're going to own nothing. But how are you going to earn the money to be happy is the question. That's the question. Because the software I use on the computers to run the videos, luckily I get the student version that allows me to actually download it on the computer, because I know a few professors, so I get their student version. I pay for it, but I'm able to get that thing, because they know students run around with laptops and they're in a different place. Not like you're at a company where you can log in and then get in the cloud. It's just a little different. Students still get that option for now. But almost every company are on a subscription service, everything. There's no more software. It's hard for you to buy software. The only way I get it is because I know a couple professors. But you're offering, basically, when you sign in and you want to go to XYZ software, they give you the digital. It's very hard to get a standalone pull-on, download onto your computer for your own personal use for that. Difficult. Everything's this whole subscription thing here. And the most important disclaimer in there: PlayStation reserves the right to temporarily or permanently ban accounts for the terms of service breaches. The words you use, because they're listening and monitoring every single word you say, because you give them access to your microphone. So if they hear you use banned words or slurs, you lost your account. If you're cheating in multiplayer games, well, you're not going to be able to use the products. Even if you pay for it, they're just going to cut your access. And this is like, I read this most incredible account of somebody who rented a car that was one of those brand new ones that looks to see your eyes, and you got to keep the hands on the wheel when you're driving. And they said it was the most annoying, dangerous, mind-bending experience they'd ever had. They're like, the amount of alerts that came on the phone or on their little control panel was more distracting than if they would have been talking on the phone themselves. And it was actually so disturbing for them. They tried to cover it up, but it wouldn't let them go unless they had to look at it, pull the car over. You must exit now. And then it forced slowed down the car until they pulled the thing off, and then it allowed them to go back up again. So another thing here, maybe magnetic field related. Bears. Bear spray goes off live in Japan at the post office, leaving 5 hospitalized. Now, if you don't know anything about Japan, they've been having this tremendous bear attacks, like hundreds of bear attacks last year. And this year, it's even more than last year. I think we're about midway through the year. I know there were over 100 black bear attacks just this year alone. So they got professional hunters going out there. They got all these things, like how to scare the bear. A lot of people are buying the bear spraying thing. But 5 people in the hospital. So again, there's so many weirdness going on with nature here. And then this is also an interesting one. You know, being a traveler up to Japan, I've been there multiple times. Love that country. By the way, if you want to get some exotic, like out of this world travel, because it's hard, it'll test your skills once you get outside Tokyo or, you know, Osaka or somewhere big. Once you get out in the countryside, just even getting around, because not a lot of people speak English out in the countryside. Even the translation apps are tweaky. And if you can't get cell service in some remote spots, you're just on your own. And it's like the old days where you just need to point to stuff and be like, yeah, and like open the money, you know? You can read the numbers. So here's the thing, like Japan's struggling economically. So Japan triples departure tax and push to combat over-tourism. It's the little things, because they got millions and millions and millions of visitors every year. So 3 times tax. What happens in America if we get it 3 times tax? Government just comes up and goes, you know what, property tax, 3 times bigger this year. We just need the money 3 times. They're going to increase 3 times. Like, how many people would be able to afford their home? You'd have to sell something else. Oh, wait, then you get a capital gains tax to try to get the thing to get the money to then fund your home. Oh, wait, this is going to happen next year again. What are we going to sell next year to try to keep the house? Oh, wait, let's just sell the house. Rental market's going to boom. If we come into some of these crazy things that they're talking about, like unrealized capital gains and this sort of thing. So the departure tax previously for foreigners was $1,000. So let me do the math again so we get correct math on this. That'll be $3,000. And today we'll just do 60 even. Yeah, it's a $50 departure tax now. Didn't used to be that. It used to be like a couple bucks. So you can see how many travelers are coming in, and they say it's to try to ease over tourism. But everywhere I look over here in Asia, it's all about go travel in Japan. It's like they're trying to bring as many people as they can in, so then you spend the money and then you help them with their financial crisis because they get hard dollars, hard currencies to try to defend their currency with. So the whole thing about we're trying to limit tourism and over tourism, is the actual opposite of what's going on with all the encouragement of cheap bucket flights. Get up here, packages, bring your whole country. It'll be awesome. Why is Japan weak? Why is Japan yen so weak? This is exactly what is happening right now. It is getting a little outrageous. Japan just yesterday tumbled to a 40-year low. Like their economy is in shatters right now. Went to 106, well, it was 160, almost 163. It was like 162.9 or something like that. I looked at the chart. It was all over zero hedge, the charts. The lowest since 1986. Do you remember 1986? That's when we had the financial crisis. Remember that? 87 is when all the stocks crashed. So we're at that same inflection point of rollover, and if history repeats or rhymes in some way, we could blame it on, hey, it was a repeating history cycle, and then the DTTC can step in and say, hey, great, we got to test our breakdown financial collapse around the planet happening in real time for 30 days. Awesome. Oh, it worked. Let's just push all the stocks back because new system means there shouldn't be any more stock crashing at all. So they say. Well, let me go into the Japan time. So go back in here. So this is what I'll do for the day for a couple hours each day is I'll just read through the newspapers. And if I find one like a bear spray, I'll just screen grab that and then I'll make it a thing like, hey, what's causing all the bears to attack everybody? Do you think? Not sure. South Korean won. Oh, that's again today. That's a second day. They have halted trading 3 days in this last week here. Like Korea keeps getting crashed out here. So Korean currency drops to 17-year lows. And they did stop trade. They halted trading yesterday. And if they did it today, again, that's 2 days in a row because it dropped 8%. And then last week it dropped more than 10% on the open and they halted trading that day too. So something's going on in South Korea, but they're all about the South, you know, the chips and whatnot. So let me bring you to an article. I can try to put these two together right here. Again, on Zero Hedge, one of my favorites. I encourage you to go there and look through on a daily. They got so many good articles in here. All right, so this one here, something has gone completely wrong. Palantir's Alex Karp goes ballistic on OpenAI and Anthropic. All right, those two have pushed back their IPOs anyway. So, you know, the correction in the market, they didn't want to be too close to that, so they pushed back into 2027. So I'm still saying market crash on somewhere in August because they were going to try to do their thing in November. But they probably got word on the street. November is going to be a sketchy month. Things are still correcting from the market crash from, you know, August and September. It's a little too close to do an IPO. They're still trying to, you know, smooth out the damage from that market crash. So let's try to do it next year when the new system's working and there's tons of money flooding in. Both of these were supposed to do IPOs this year and they both put them off to next year. So that's a huge signal also something weird's happening. So Alex Karp, so he is saying the thing that was talked about that was going to move money out of these AI companies back into other things. The reason all the, you know, like gold and silver and crypto and all this housing prices and everything has fallen down is all that money just got siphoned up and put into the AI stocks because it was moving so fast. Like money moves where it's treated best. And they were getting double, triple, quadruple gains on this, going up 300%. That's way more than Bitcoin. Selling my Bitcoin, man, I don't need that. I'm going to the AI stock where I'm going to get 3x on it. Times hundreds of millions of people and hundreds of billions of dollars, if not a trillion or more, a couple trillion, got swooped out of all those other markets. So you got to realize multi-trillions of dollars got swooped out of gold, silver, real estate, crypto, and other things and moved into these AI stocks and all went all the way up. And now I think this is the rollover. He's broadcasting again. This is an August play here. He's saying, hey, everybody, you're misleading corporate partners. Now, for me, it's just some guy reading on MSNBC or reading here on Zero Hedge. I go, what the hell? You mean all these AI companies are cheating everybody? I'm out. Their stock price is going to go down. This is like the number one guy. He's the CEO of Palantir, for Christ's sake. Not like me talking on who's this guy? So he's saying the voice of American business is channeling through me, y'all being ripped off. And as it goes down the thing here, he's criticizing token maxing, which means that these AI companies, you have to buy the tokens to interoperate and get your answers on institutional level. So you need to buy these in advance, and then you can use them. You spend them as you create movies or you create videos or you create answers. in almost every AI platform, like me and Ransom, when we do some of our stuff with the AI for like translation things, or if we're going to do show notes, or like when we talk sometimes and put a little video behind it, we need to pay for that. And 11 Labs too, like if we do something with voice, we get a certain number of tokens to start with, but when we change that into a different language, it subtracts the tokens. Same thing. But, you know, we're just two guys out here running a show. That's why we always ask for, you know, some help on buymeacoffee.com/civilization cycle, because we have these same costs. It used to be much more expensive. It's come down in price, I must admit. But still, you know, we're running through when we're trying to translate something. So we'll try to do a short. We'll take it, we'll throw it. We'll do a short in Japanese, Chinese, Spanish, and Arabic, and we'll try to throw it out over into the media over there and see if it sticks. So we're trying to up our game here with the Civilization Cycle podcast by auto-translating into multiple different languages. Same content, exactly the same content, same thought. We'll pick out like a nugget, like a 1-minute nugget, translate it. But to do that and then throw some graphics behind it that are in the language with the correct writing behind it, the script. You know, Arabic script is that cursive look in, Chinese with all the character script on that. Like it matches up. So to do the auto translate with the correct script and have it auto translate correctly and slap a video behind it and then load it into another genre of videos in a different nation and continent, well, that costs a little money to try to do. We're trying to bring this to a global audience. So we realize that English is a limiting factor for us to expand out. Great. Everybody here listening in English, thank you for being here, by the way. Appreciate your time and energy to be here with the conversation with us. There's a lot of other people on the planet who really, really, really want to be in this conversation, but they don't know we're having this conversation. So we're trying to split up these little nuggets and throw it out there and go, hey, there's some guys in America talking about some of the same stuff. You all are interested in over there. We just need to get the language. I wish we had a one world language where we could all speak just one language. That'd be awesome. But this is the closest we get to it, is using this type of software to bring us to a one world language, for a better term, where we can talk now in any language on the planet using an interface. And I know somebody will say it's the mark of the beast is the beast. I agree, it is the beast-ish. But now we're starting, the real beast is this, DTCC, tokenization of all your assets. I digress. Your AI sovereignty dictates your institution's future. So what, I can't even believe he's saying these with a straight face. Now I read these this morning and I almost had a double take, like, what? So he's saying if you give over your business sovereignty into AI on a cloud basis, you've lost control of your company. You transfer the rights of all your institution for it to exploit or gain from you. This is the CEO of Palantir. What message is this sending out to everybody else out there that's invested in these kind of AI stocks? The message is very clear. They're going to go down in value because suddenly people aren't going to pay. They're like, hey, I read this thing from Alex over there. You guys are charging us too much. You got to cut your revenue. I'm not going to pay for those tokens anymore. You give us 50%. And they talk about it too, data retention. Like once you put AI in charge of your company's systems, like we saw a couple AI agents go rogue and like delete everything out. And they're like, wait, even the backups are gone. Once you give that power for AI to determine what it wants to keep or what it wants to delete out of your company and the systems that you've created and the different playbooks and whatever else is behind there, your IP and the company trade secrets, that all can be deleted in a second. That's scary. And he's coming out going, you're giving way too much of this thing. You got to stop doing this. And allowing, here it is, real expertise is existential, which we got off base with the DEI thing. We did. We need to bring back and like erase any of the DEI candidates. If they got hired, that's cool. Good for now, but you need to be retested. Can you function in that job and can you do it optimally? If you can't pass the basic test, you're out. Sorry, we're back to meritocracy again. We're coming back to things that function because our systems are falling apart with you people in there. We can't have somebody who doesn't know what they're doing running a system or a company or dictating policy that has no practical experience, that doesn't know how to function in that world because you just got plucked out of somewhere because you were in some cesspool and you're like, oh, you're good enough. You check all the boxes here. Go into this high level position. We need to stop that. We need to retest any DEI hire. It could be if you're doing your job well. Applause to you. I'm glad you learned and you got your skills training. You're bumping it up, man. You're grinding away. Awesome. Keep that flow going. And those are the people that should still be in there. Just because they're all DEI candidates doesn't mean that a bunch of them didn't excel. But there's some that didn't, and you need to weed that pool out. They need to be gone. But keep the ones that did actually work, morph into the system and excel and actually, benefit the system. But this, again, allowing politics or favoritism to determine your technical decisions, rewards, is at best politics. And again, we're at that stage. So he's basically talking about the programming into the AI, because a lot of these AI companies are on that side of this spectrum or that spectrum or the hiring practice or whatever, and they're coding in that. So he's like, beware, because it's not pure code. There is politic in the code. And learn from institutions that are winning and have consistently delivered, as in, that's the way it always was. Why do you even need to say that? Have we gone so far away from common sense and actually delivering results on companies deliver what they promise on time and the product or the service works? And now it doesn't consistently not. That's the whole problem. We've gone away where nothing works anymore, really nothing. Barely anything works anymore. And I grew up in that world where everything was perfectly functional and you put your nose to the grindstone, you got in those companies and you worked, or you didn't. And if you didn't work, and if you didn't fit in like square peg, round hole, you're out. And nobody complained because that's just the way it was. It was like you did the job, it functioned, or you're gone. And of course, you had a small period to prove yourself in these zones. But if it didn't, and nobody even blinked an eye about, oh, your rights, oh, this, oh, you're this, oh, you're that, oh, we can't do, oh, you didn't get the right upbringing. Well, too bad. That's just the way it worked. Somebody else understands the mathematics better. Like, I'm not the greatest guy with math. Why would I be upset that somebody got a job who does better math than I do? Blows my mind. How somebody could actually be mad at another person who does something better than them. Okay, organic chemistry. There's people that blow me away. Like, why would I be upset because an organic chemist who's been in the job field for 8 years and invented and got 16 patents, and just because they're of a certain schooling or a certain zip code, they get thrown out of the position and some other half-wit gets put in there just to fill a box. And then things start breaking and their company doesn't move forward because there's no more invention. Like, why would I be mad at a guy or a girl who excels in what they do and I'm not equal with their exceptionalism? So why would I be upset if I'm not touching that bar of excellence? And then they say, well, you're not going to fit in here because they have 8 more years of experience than you. Okay, great. I need more experience. I need to go somewhere else, learn some better skills, bump it up a little bit. But today's world, you can't find he's just there, she's just there because you got to let me in. That's got to stop. And that's what he's talking about here, is all this is coded in the AI. If he's got to come out and say, you got to pick companies that actually do things right, then we got a completely broken system. For a CEO to say that, that's like saying water's wet. You need to drink wet water, not dry water. Something of that ridiculousness. You'd look at it and go, all right, don't eat yellow snow. Some said, eat the yellow snow? Don't eat the yellow snow. All right? Like, come on. And the whole thing goes into really, excuse me, let me get some coffee here. He's basically saying that the AI that you have been sold as the God's gospel truth of this whole renaissance of humanity is not really what it's stacked up to be. And the cost-driven models, China just coming out with DeepSeek version 4. We can't keep up because it costs too much, and all the promises that you were given of this exceptional God-like technology, really at the base of it is being, well, coded by those with different beliefs. So it's not all that what we think it is. It's going to take a minute to weed that out, things aren't going to be as they thought were promised to you in this whole system and ecosystem of AI. So pull back for a minute. What are stockholders going to do? Would you hold that now after reading this whole article? Would you continue to hold AI stocks, or would you go, I don't know, man. That was a pretty heavy hitting interview with the CEO of Palantir on CNBC. Everybody normie just saw that. Should I continue to hold on, and maybe I will pull it out and get into cash? Something seems really weird right now. And maybe I'll come back in later. I'll just get the gains because it's pretty much near the record highs now. Stock market at all-time record high. Like for me, just being a realist, I know I got caught in the greed trap myself a couple times. But learning from that, absolutely 1,000% after seeing this article, I would sell everything I own today if I had it, and I don't. On the record, I do not have any AI stocks. If I did, I would sell every one of them because this is absolutely going to drive the price down. Insane what's going on in terms of messaging. And it seems to be all overlapping at the exact same time too. So let me go on this one here. Excellent interview. If you want to watch this one here, we can't because I'll get the copyright strike. I would love to watch it with you and re-explain. This is off Kinesis Money. And the notes again, the main takeaways for this were July 24th, the CME is going to get its paper trade broken and shredded. Hong Kong repositories, Singapore repositories, Shanghai go full live, meaning that if I owe China a debt and I have an office trading in Singapore, and let's say I'm over in Belarus, but I have a Belarusian satellite office in Singapore, I can set up an account to trade gold or settlement of gold equivalency on the digital form of gold inside Singapore. Now, if I want to take that, it's a promise for the gold. So if I actually want to take physical delivery, I can really walk down with that piece of paper, although it'll be digital with a QR code, and present it, and they will give me the physical gold out the window. Or I can just hold on to it as a promise because it's worth that much as a denoted settlement in gold. So I have this much gold. Now I could trade it to you digitally, and then you have the option to claim it in person. So any other international business entity operating in Singapore will be allowed to partake in the system regardless of the nation they're in, except America, of course, and in Hong Kong also. So these two nations have already stepped up, and they're going to be allowing gold trade to settle for anything. So Belarus, maybe you get some Chinese goods, or you sell some Belarusian goods into China. That can all be settled by gold through Singapore now. You don't even have to hold the yuan to go into China. This itself, in the way that money just changed, in addition to what the DTCC is doing, I'm telling you, there's massive, massive changes this month coming up. So Andrew Maguire was the interviewee on this. So the PBOC is currently taking 3.5 tons per day out of the West. That is going to increase to 15 tons a day on July 24th. They're not taking paper settlement. They're only taking physical delivery. Anywhere they're buying and putting out a trade on paper at the moment, they want the physical. So again, they're going to be trading. They call this the physical reality. And it's going to hit us hard in America because once we cannot control that, then the price is going to run high, which explains back the reason I think we're seeing $19,000 gold on a proof coin from the US Mint. Like I say, generally if it's a $70 coin, they charge $100 to get it into that proof state. So that would be about right. If it was $11,000 gold, $19,000 would bring you into this proof coin. So that means that gold would be revalued above 10,000. So let me show you another one that shows things aren't all right in Kansas anymore there, Dorothy. The positioning of this, again, the announcements, you have to see what they are for what they are. We've been sold this whole AI thing and data center thing. So the world's largest data center campus is on the verge of collapse after Blackstone, not BlackRock, Blackstone pulls out. So if you think Blackstone, Vanguard, BlackRock, they're all in that top three. So this is the top two. Take away BlackRock and you got Blackstone and Vanguard. Well, Blackstone just said, we're selling all of our interest in the data centers at a huge discount. What would make them do that? Right on top of Palantir CEO's announcement that they are going to give the wet fish to the face for the whole AI industry. Like it's not what it's chopped up to be. You're overcharging, you're under delivering, and it's not going to work for most people moving forward. That's going to crash that market. And then here's Blackstone. We are taking all of our investments out of Northern Virginia. For those of you in Virginia, just say it correct, in Northern Virginia. Blackstone, and taking a loss, no less. So they had a 96 megawatt data center. Hey, do you think all the data centers pulling power is the reason we're having blackouts and brownouts in some parts of America? Do you think? And in Europe also, do you think all that extra power going in all these data centers is one of the reasons you're told to turn your aircon to 76? I think the rubber meeting the road. Now they had a chance and they didn't get enough generation. And now we're starting to see in the summer, now people are starting with two eyeballs going, wait, we had enough power 2 years ago. Where is all the extra electricity going? Gertrude? Yeah. Exactly. So it's kind of on the open where it can't be hit anymore. These data centers are taking too much power where we can't even run our economies in the summer efficiently any longer. Now, this is a data center. Now, if this was a manufacturing plant, like there's a heap ton of those down around further south around Chattanooga where I live. Well, I live in East Tennessee, but south of us is this place called Chattanooga. It's right on the border. Dalton, Georgia's there. It's a huge manufacturing area just stepping over the border between Tennessee and Georgia. A lot of the companies are on the Tennessee side, preferential taxes, no state income tax, gas is cheaper. You go over to Georgia, you got accelerated taxes, 8%, and like gas is 15, 20 cents a gallon higher. So like stepping over a line, you reduce. So a lot of companies set up in Tennessee. Manufacturing, small fabrication, that sort of thing. If they don't have the power, but the data centers are drawing the power, then we have a huge problem where our economy can't function because the digital economy has taken away too much from the physical economy. So this is where this rollover is. It's happening now. You know, there was a lot of talk about it. It could take 5 years before people would realize it. By the time all the data centers were built out, we really got into this electrical infrastructure bottleneck of supply and demand. We're already past that. You're seeing it in real time happening with the heat. Now, if the heat wasn't so intense this year because of the super El Nino inbound, this wouldn't be a thing for years. So they kind of got caught with their pants down a few years early. And thank the weather for that, no less. Without the super heat wave, this wouldn't have been pointed to for 3 to 5 years more. And they would have built out way more. So Blackstone sees it already. Man, they just showed everything that's wrong with this because the heat, we can't even allow people air conditioning. We have a huge problem. We're going to have to do away with this. We're going to have to get Elon to build them in space, and we're walking away at a loss. And then in addition to what Palantir said, so both of these are coming in the same day's news, both of these articles. I can't implore, like the heaviness of this, the just sledgehammer on the industry for both of these AI data center. Now think about all the chips and the memory and all this stuff. That was all because of the data centers. Now, if the data centers are going to stop being built because of what was just said and this industry shrinking, then all those other things like the Micron play and everything, you see that in the news, all the memory stuff, that's all going to disappear. It'll be a flash in the pan. This is going to be another bubble that's going to make bubbles look like small bubbles compared to this bubble. So they pulled out on a 2,100 acre data center. See, so if you were a farmer and you would have sold your land at $14 or $140,000 an acre, you made out because these guys are pulling out. So again, you know, a few people got lucky on that, but that land probably won't go back to farmland, which is a bad thing. And they had another data center which was planned. Largest data center in the world. That funding has apparently been pulled. And it's so sad, like, you know, and it was right on the edge of a historic Civil War battlefield. And living in Tennessee, we got these battlefields all around the place. And we got these old cemeteries associated with these battlefields. Like they're protected areas. You know, they're all around. Anytime you drive up in the hollers, you get way back in some of these hills, way back where like the road's dead end, you know, and there'll be grassy fields up there where somebody maintains it. It is a Civil War cemetery and generally a family cemetery with a Civil War cemetery. So the community takes care of it. And these are like protected areas. And all these data centers just going, just bulldozing over it. And I wonder what else has been lost, because that area in East Tennessee, all the way up the Appalachians, you know, you go way back, Chota and further back, Cherokee. I mean, they had some vast capitals up there. Chota, which is near, you know, it's up in East Tennessee along, you know, some lakes and things. It's all under the dam system now. They had 40,000 people living in the city. You know, they make it seem like, oh, Native American Indians are living in little tents and huts with like 12 people here and 12 people there, and they strung it together. No, they had functioning cities. The Cherokee capital, 40,000 people. You know what kind of 40,000 people live in there? What about a 40,000 person city today? That's a lot of planning. You got roads, infrastructure, water, sewage, law, these kind of things. Then there were multiple of these trading posts and like bigger settlements of 10,000 everywhere. Most of them are underwater now. There was forts, star forts up and down different areas there, all underwater. So when you look at this edge of the historic Civil War battlefield, it makes me sad that they're erasing our history like this, because this is our history. Like, we need to know what happened. Like Revolutionary War battlefields, yeah, there's a few around, but you know, slowly over time, those get degraded. They get built over. It was just one semi-large battle. You know, I mean, how much in 100 years our history will be totally gone. So again, you know, when I talk with Ransom a lot about this, I like to bring up some of the charts and take a look. Truly, it's what's happening. So the measured data center power demand in Virginia, but largely bottlenecked. So the data center draw from areas outside Virginia on a statewide basis, that's that blue line. Since Virginia is so close to DC and they had so much need for like the NSA and all the three-letter agencies, FBI and CIA, et cetera, they have their own private data centers to run their own ops or whatever their information crunch is on that. The reason Virginia is so much higher than the rest of the nation on power draw is that exact reason. And then if you get up, you know, if you're getting up into Northern Virginia, then you get up in Maryland, and then you're creeping up into like New Jersey and New York, you know, you get that whole megalopolis of data centers all down that hugely populated coast, where all the business and all the IT and all those agencies and businesses that run that financial intelligence, like in New York, you think the stock market runs, are all bot trades. The amount of financial intelligence that needs to be crunched just for Wall Street to operate, damn, that requires multiple data centers on itself. And then throw in the CIA for good measure, and they needed 1 or 2 or 3. So the amount of power in Virginia was exceptionally large over a lot of other places. But as Ransom was telling me, you know, down where he's living in New Mexico, they were going to start ramping up as well, multiple data centers, which is going to draw more power than the state actually produces right now. So that would eclipse that red line pretty much. So you can see somebody knows something that this is no longer doable. And when companies pull fire sale type of sales on multi-billions of dollar projects, that's something's very wrong. I understand some companies are willing to take a loss, and like stock traders, they set their limits. If they get stopped out or whatever, that's fine, because that was just a cost of doing business. Possibility to make more is there, but if you lose, make sure it's a smaller loss and you can try to make money again. Something's gone off the hook here that it's not even in the future projections of them going out 10, 20 years, it's not even going to be profitable. So they're choosing to take billions of dollars losses now versus taking tens of billions later. So that, and then the crushing of the AI CEOs coming in here. I just something's completely wrong now here, in my opinion. Now you can agree or disagree with that, but let's jump over to Al Jazeera for a momento. Speaking of the World Cup, Ronaldo. Who's that? Ronaldo scores, Portugal come back to win. What? Croatia. Excellent country, both excellent countries for travel, by the way. If you're going to get out, there's so much going on in the world. Just get out and enjoy your life. I know it's a busy time right now, but you can jump on that shoulder season. So Al Jazeera is one of my favorites because all the news in the Middle East, they have this breaking set over here. So generally when you come in, they'll just give you the headlines of what's coming up. It'll take hours and hours and hours for this news to reach our media. So if you want to get like a 3-hour or 2-hour jump on what's really happening, because a lot of times when I'm reading our news and there's like delay in the peace process, or like Vance isn't joining, or the Iranians pulled out, it'll be here first, and I will get it over on a news alert here 2 hours later. So if you're looking for ahead of the curve stuff that jumps by the minute on this, then you want to come in. And if you click on that, it will bring you over and it'll expand out each of those news headlines as they move. So 1 minute ago, our Now Movement official meets Iranian parliament speaker in Galbif, or Gailabif. So you can see who's meeting with who in the Lebanon side there. Oil prices edge up ahead of U.S. holiday weekend. That's old news. And I like some of their analysis here where Gulf countries are going to start diversifying security alliances. Yeah, the U.S. has lost its kind of flavor over there. We're not going to be able to hold it any longer. So does this have something to do with the contraction that's happening in America now the AI trade's being totally blown out? Perhaps. Not really sure. But they have some cool pictures. Like these are cool pictures you won't see anywhere else. Like these small vessels here on the side. It's, Mansuman, that's in Oman. It's like a little periphery bay before it heads out into the Gulf. A lot of local fishermen use this one. Got a cool little town down there, some like megaliths right on the shoreline up there. So that's the only reason I know this place. Here's some megaliths in Musabdam. And I mean, you just don't see these kind of pictures in our, Western media too much. I mean, you really got to find them. And like this kind of stuff depends who you're looking at or what entity they're talking about here. Pakistani's interior minister arrived in Iran in advance of the funeral of slain Supreme Leader Khamenei. All right, this is going to be the big to-do over there. This is like the biggest thing going on in the nation. Like they're trying to celebrate this guy, and for them and the mourners, this is going to be all about it for like 3 to 4 days. We're heading into our 250th anniversary. They're heading into the biggest funeral in decades from one of their leaders that they loved. So they say, again, don't want to get a electrified rod to the nads or something for talking bad about their government. So might as well say I love them. And the funeral. So we got these two biggest of things going on, and we got the World Cup going on. So would it not be easy to like slide a stock market collapse inside here, or stock market increase? In Israel, bulldozing 500 olive trees near Jenin as the harvest nears. I've always been on the edge. I don't care what country you are, but don't be destroying food, because these olive trees took decades to put into place. And I don't care what nation or side politics. It's not even politics, dude. You're destroying food, and that's the whole thing. Destroying food and like poisoning wells. Like, you just don't do that stuff, right? You're not supposed to. It's never been cool in history, even in the Arab traditions. You're never supposed to poison your enemy's well, ever, because sometimes in the future, if you become friends again, then you're drinking poison water too. It makes sense. Same thing. Don't be bulldozing groves of food. So one good thing, Trump going to be cutting commercial fishing regulations. The Greens will have something to say about that, I am sure, all over the place. And Alibaba to settle $600 million lawsuit. Now, see, this is a Chinese thing, so you're not really hearing about it too much, because Alibaba is more of an Asian. So they were doing something like Silk Roadish, for a better term. That's the best connection I can put to it. They got caught. U.S. government put all kind of sanctions and sued them, and that's where the de minimis packages, that was all part of this whole thing. Remember when Trump said, no more small little packages coming in, because they were coming in this way. So they got to pay $600 million settlement to allow packages sold through Alibaba to come back into America. There's thing with Silk Road out of China, literally. So what else we got going on? There's got the Japan Times, got that. The Times of India. Let's see what's up in here. Because India, they're trying to get gasoline from all over the place. They're running out of. And all these things going on in the world, Taylor Swift is in the Indian media as like the top above the fold story. That makes no sense. And even in India, at least look at this, what they're talking about. This is funny. Some of the same things we're speaking about in America are spoken about in India. Are all citizens being made slaves in the Indian government? I mean, do we not talk about this too in America? It seems to be a global thing. And I'm sure we could find, are all citizens in the EU becoming slaves of the EU government? Because it does seem that people are very similar in the way that they think. All right, so what else? World Cup stuff. And for me, a lot of times I try to dive into let's see, we want to get into where are we at here? Where's the economy section? Please help here. Where's it? Oh, there it is down there. Because you can see what's happening in these nations before it comes to us and where the problems are going to be and then how and why they need this new digitized system. So again, they're talking about indirect taxes here inside India, trying to bring more domestic manufacturing back to India. Gee, that sounds very much like our country, doesn't it? But some of these same things, I don't care where you go globally, they're copying our playbook here. And let's see I'm going to take you on. Let's go travel a minute here. So Japan, Prime Minister Takaichi in India, top 10 things they're going to talk about. So India, Japan trade going to get bigger. Let's see, we want to go, where's our travel? Got to be a lifestyle section here. Travel. Because a lot of times to take a look at what is, I don't know, some other places where people think where it's hot right now. There we go, travel. There are only 3 American states that start with the letter C. Why you should meet them. Okay, I'd say Connecticut, California, Colorado. I think that's right. If you were able to think that quick, thank you. Let's see, what do we have? 6 lakes in India with clear, oh, there we go, that's pretty. That's high altitude lake somewhere. That's 1 of 7, so there's 7 here, okay. Oh, check out that. Pangong Lake in Ladakh. I went up to Ladakh. I went to this place far up in this called Leh, L-E-H. This is like super long time ago, back in the 90s. Got lost up there. It was closest. Had a very unusual experience in the mountains that evening. I was going out looking for geodes. I'll tell you the story. I was up in this place called Leh. Really remote. It took 2 days to drive up there in a bus. Not like today where there's actual real roads to get up there and easy, and it's like all the mountain passes work. I mean, it was rough getting up there. Super high altitude climbs. You know, you're sleeping at like 15,000 feet from coming down like 6,000 feet down to Shimla or something and come on up. It was like rough on the altitude sickness kind of thing coming. You went up so fast and you got to spend a whole night sleeping, couldn't sleep, headaches, all kind of crazy stuff. Anyway, I was over in Leh, in Ladakh region, and I went out looking for geodes. So I was cruising down this river and I was like, oh, there's a camp spot. I looked on a map, like 10 clicks in, there was this like summer camping zone. And it wasn't sort of at the edge. It was end of September. It was just before, it was just at the end of September. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to go look for geodes along here. And I'm going to brought my hammer. And I was like, I'm just going to break some rocks open as I go down this thing. So anyway, I get up there. I'm like, oh, starting to get dark. All right, full moon. I thought I'll just keep cruising down. It was like it was a well-kept road. And I only brought 1 bottle of water with me. I forgot my filter. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. I'll be back soon. I brought this big, water. And I got down there and the place was closed for the season. And I thought, okay, man, there's got to be at least one caretaker hanging out here. And there was nobody. I mean, nothing, nobody. And it was dry as bone. At that point, I would have drunk the water coming out of a stream, and I would have gotten sick, and I would have gone to the hospital, but that's how bad I needed the water. Totally dehydrated, saw weird stuff out there. Don't know what I saw. It was just weird. And I came back in. I remember walking back from the road, did like 20 clicks round trip in a high, cold, dry. And I couldn't get down to the river because it was like in this area where I actually got off the river basin because it was pretty flat near the bridge, but the rest was like a gorge going down. And I was going to, all right, I'm going to go get some water out of it. And my third son, myself, told me, you go down there, you're going to die. You're not going to come back. And I was like, all right, I'm not going to go down there, you know? And it was like something stepped outside me and said, don't go down there. You're going to die. Because it was scree slope. And I was like, man, I'm thirsty. I'm about to like pass out here if I don't get some water. So I walked 20 clicks round trip. Storm started to come in. The full moon was blown out. It got pitch dark just before sunset, wandering through like, where's the road? And I got back to the main road again. There was actually a main road, paved road, going over the bridge. And as soon as I got out on the road, I flagged this guy, and his eyes got like this. Being like, wow, what are you doing? And as soon as I got in the car, it was like 3 clicks back to the village or something again. And he just gives me this orange. He goes like 3 or 4 clicks back to Lay. And he's like, dude, you got to eat this orange. And I was like slobbering this thing down my face. I get back to the guest house. Army guys are there. And they're like, where the hell were you, man? It's like, oh, I walked down this river like 10 clicks. I showed them on the map. And they're like, holy shit, we've been looking for you all night. Army's out looking for you through the town and stuff. Guest house owners freaked out. Got all questioned by the police. They're there like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know, man. I just want to go see some monks. What are you doing? And it was just weird. But anyway, Lay. Always tell somebody where you're going. Bring a water filter with you. And bring extra clothes because it did get cold in the evening after the full moon and the storm rolled in. I wasn't prepared. See, live and learn. So that was my story in Lay. Haven't been to Sikkim. That was totally, Sikkim's a little rough to get to. You need permits. It's kind of, see how pretty it is up there. There's all kind of camping, crazy good mountain views. Sikkim is difficult for foreigners to get to. I'm just going to say that. Like in Nepal, there's some areas the Mustang Valley, difficult to get to unless you pay crazy fees and have guides and stuff. You can't just go walk into Sikkim. You can't just go walk into Mustang. What else do we got here? Spiti. That's like a more popular tourist area where you go Spiti and Chandratral. You can get up there. That's an easy one to get to. What's that? Vishanasar Lake. Oh, that's in Kashmir. Again, when I was there, totally off limits. Dan, what was the name of it? Oh, speaking of Lay, I was going to go to Kashmir and just go hang out on the houseboats. And I got on the bus and we were going to go down, and they got this whole thing, and you can get on these houseboats, and it's pretty cool. There's a lake, and you can stay on there and mountain views and whatever. But we started to get over the mountain pass, and they're like, oh, we got to turn around. And we're like, well, the place is right there. You can see down the bus. No, they're shelling into the bus station like mortars. Like, what do you mean shelling? Well, they're shelling into the bus station down there. Can't go down there. That was when the war was going on more. Oh, shit, okay. Tsoumori, again, high altitude, super crazy high altitude lake. Like, that's high altitude. You're near the top up there, the range. Okay, this is a little further down, more alpine-y, if you will. Gadsar, again, all these places are in Kashmir. Like, a lot of these were super off limits. So when you think about that, you just can't in some places. All right, so let me get you up into the weather here quick before we sign off for tonight. Thank you so much for staying with me. Let's open with, let's see, photos. And let me share this off with you one more time here. Stop sharing that. So you can see my screen, my camera's right in the way. Okay, here we go. They're all talking about this whole thing. This is for anybody out there that wants to purify water. Copper was used in swimming pools before chlorine due to copper's antibacterial properties, which kept the water free from bacteria. Now, this is the way people used to have copper pipes. And speaking of India, I was trying to connect these two together. In India, everybody drinks from like these copper vessels. You might think, well, everybody's pouring out of this thing and they're drinking. Everything's copper. It kills the germs. So I could see if they didn't use so much copper in India, it would be way more horrific over there for diseases, drinking water style. But having copper, I've seen some crazy videos where people will throw like a chunk of copper, like a woven mesh copper, something you can use for like in distilling or whatever, and throw it in the water, and they'll come back the next day and it definitely looks clearer. So when you're thinking of something like this, why can't we use the simplest of things? They're trying to get in there, use chemicals and use filters. Why don't we use copper in there too? Hey, President Trump, throw a bunch of copper in there, see what happens. Use all the pennies that are no longer, use the older pennies that are 100% copper, just litter the bottom of it, and then people can go pick up free pennies at the end of the thing. Just throw a bunch of pennies in there to see what happens. Can't hurt. Throw $1 million worth of pennies in there, clean the thing up. It'll be a fun event. Jump in, go pick some pennies. Whatever. All right, so if we look out at the, this is off the GFS model here. June 30th, anybody in America, you're only hearing about the heat. Did you know it was cold out in America, western part of the United States and up into Canada? It was like, let's see, Celsius, about 25, 30 degrees cooler than normal right up here in this pink area. Although the heat was in the east, I get it. That's just part of it. And then it moved a little bit. But did you know in the same days that we had snow? So if there was 5 feet of snow fell in the Rockies in Idaho at the end of June, that same day, the 30th, when it was really cold, that cold pocket there, that was snow, 5 feet of snow. And if you come in the red areas, it's even 15, which is, over a foot. So you start to look at this, even 6.5 a foot, all that's a very, very wide area. If it was one peak, I could see, all right, a mountain storm, things can change. A lot of, strangeness in the mountains, as I can attest to too, getting, sort of bizarrely stuck that day. Although I must say, after that happened to me, I never went hiking alone. Just so many things changed at that point. It was at the edge of consciousness coming out of the mountains. Although some people could say that was an experiential experience. It was. To the point of me, it's weird one. What would you do? Now, if I would have done it on purpose, knowing I was going on that mind sojourn and getting caught in storms and just like pushing my body to the ultimate edge of where it could go, literally when I was really strong and very powerful and be able to like just hike for days and keep going, I was barely able to get out of there. Like just a regular person, they wouldn't have gotten out. So, I challenged my thought of like risk assessment. Went way over the edge of, man, that's too sketchy, that's too dangerous, I don't want to do that anymore. So being at the top of some of these mountains, when that came in, if you got 5 feet of snow in the middle of summer and you took your family up there and your car broke down and you thought we're going to get a couple flurries, we'll just wait it out, it's the middle of summer and you got dumped 5 feet. You prepared for that? What if you got 3 feet? You're still not driving. 2 feet, you're not driving. A foot, you're not driving. Would you have been prepared for this kind of mega snowstorm that came in unexpectedly in multi-states? It's summertime. People are on holiday already. I doubt it. I bet there were super ton of rescues up there. Have to go look in the media and see. All right, so let's look at the fans here for a second before we even start. The Greens on the left, they want to do it by hand. They get a hand fan. Oh, save the planet. Awesome. Socialist, communist, yeah, you get a little something better than nothing, but it's not really great, but it's something, and that's what you get. Hey, I was watching Martin Armstrong too, and he says, he's like, oh, socialism. You vote your way into socialism, but you need to shoot your way out. And I thought that was the most perfect statement for what we're seeing right now. Everybody wants to vote in socialism, but to get out of that, we need to take a different tack. Liberals, yeah, they'll get the tiny fan. They'll be good. Look how cute that is. Conservatives, yeah, we're going to boost that thing. I ain't doing 76 on my aircon. That thing is staying down. Nationalists, wall mounted, yeah, baby. And then the colonialists, we're going for cooling the whole building. Don't tell us what to do. We're going to reset this right now. This is, it's not even a meme, but it is a meme. But it just shows you how correct this is in the thoughts of how we want to live our lives or be controlled by living our lives by others. And the amount of stuff, like the colonialists and the Greens, like, can you find a middle ground there? No, absolutely not. One's going to have it this way. You can't use electricity. The other, we're going to cool a whole building. Even the socialists, communists, and nationalists, I mean, look at that. I know we want a wall-mounted AC unit that cools a whole room. And they're like, well, you can get this, just cool your face just right here a little bit because you're cool. No, not acceptable. Like, you can't even find a blend of those two. I mean, liberals are probably the best you're going to get. Conservatives in the middle, like how do you blend that, stand-up mounted air conditioner with a little tiny fan? You don't. There's one you just can't. They don't. Those concepts don't go together. That's why everybody's so divided today. We're all stuck in our buckets, unwilling to accept any other bucket. Well, I'm not going to turn off my aircon because you made a bad choice and tell me to turn my thing down at 78 or 76 and let me roast in the middle of summer when you're the idiot that took away our power plants. No, I'm not going to accept that. You can force turn off my house and black me out, and I'll do that. And then I don't have a choice. But if you're going to give me the choice of turning an aircon up to 76 because I need to play ball with everybody, one loaf of bread for you, man. No, I'm not going to do it. Bad choices have consequences. And you'll say, well, bad choice was you keeping your aircon so high. How dare you? So some of the temperatures we're looking at here. This is today, actually, on the 3rd of July. No, today's the 2nd, excuse me. That's tomorrow's temperatures. So again, some of these areas where the data centers are, if you follow all that line of white, 101, 100, 195, or 95, not 195, excuse me, 103, 95, 102, 100. This is exceptional draw on the aircon and electrical right now for the conditions we're seeing. But the AI data centers are drawing all that. They actually need more because imagine being a human and then you need to keep the water cool to keep your servers cool. They're going to pull way more electricity than you are, even if you crank in your AC down to like 65. Data centers are going to pull way more. They need way more. So, that's what I'm saying. It's so obvious now. And Genie, don't go back in the bottle on this one. Humpty Dumpty, super glue, whatever. You can try to do some rock powder, egg dust, put it back, whatever, ain't going back together. Everything is shattered in the illusion as of today. So just just keep that in mind. That money is going to flow out of there into somewhere else. So as you look at stocks starting to go down, specifically AI, the magnificent, whatever they are now, 65 or 50, 30, wow, they keep adding to it. That whole chunk of balloon of money, that pool of money, that bucket's just going to move to another place. So watch where it moves to. I'm saying it's going into crypto because they need to rescue Saylor. They need to make all the ETFs look good. They can crash the stock market, and then NASDAQ will break with the correlation from crypto. I know crypto will go down some, but they get to test their new machinery for the DTCC, but the pledge collateral for part of this is also Bitcoin. And they're going to be using stellar lumens on this. So at least you got two major cryptos that are in there that are going to be part of the system. So they can't crash them too much because it's the machinery behind, it's the backbone of part of the system. AI isn't, they're running they develop their own blockchain systems for this. They're running their own autonomous private ledgers for some of it. So again, everybody going, oh, XRP, dudes and chicks out there, please. XRP, the token, is not what they're going to use. They're going to use a stable coin of RLUSD. No company in their right mind is going to move $100 million with a token that can move up or down half a penny by the time it moves to the next place. That's insane. Why do you even try that? Now, if companies were going to do that insanity, I would say XRP, wow, it's going to really go up in price. But knowing that they're going to use RLUSD or the USD Circle stablecoin to move the money, I don't see where XRP really has much of a play in there. Ripple on-demand liquidity is plugged right into that whole system with DTCC. That's what the backbone of the on-demand liquidity system was. That layer first, then they built on top of that layer to move it from the next place to one place. But RippleNet, their base layer of this entire system is Ripple. On-demand liquidity, not XRP, RLUSD. Their ledger has nothing to do with the XRP token. It'll get some stuff in the news and be like, oh, it's XRP, but don't expect this thing to go up. I can't even see double digits for this token, really. XRP, don't see in a double digit for decades in the future. Meanwhile, Stellar Lumens, yeah, because it's the backbone to create contracts for the system. Think about how many financial products there are out there. You need to make a contract for each one, and you need to lock 15 tokens up for each one. Locked into the contract before you can even start it. So think the envelope. If you're going to get an envelope, it's going to cost you 15 stellar lumens that can never move. They got to lock up forever. Then you can put stuff in it. And then when you move it and you pay for that, it takes fractions of a lumen. But again, fractions of lumens over trillions of transactions burnt. So stellar lumens, in my opinion, is the winner on this one. Not financial advice, but it's just the backbone of how the system's going to work. It is the wrapper for all the contracts. And even they say, well, you only burn 1/100th of a lumen. Okay, well, after 100 transactions, you burned one whole lumen. All right, see the scales of this too. Like how many I should use ChatGPT and ask it, like, how many financial transactions are cleared in a single day, planet-wide, through all the financial systems on the planet? And then burn that every day, and you tell me what the tokenomics and the inflation is going to be. Okay, so speaking of inflation, the heat coming up here. This is the latest one that I got June 1st, and this will bring us out to their forecast for October, November, December of this year coming up for the heat in the Pacific Ocean. Now, it is going to be a pretty hot El Nino. The only part that's going to be the Super Nino is just this little bit. It's not the entire Nino all the way out to Indonesia. It's going to be this one small segment in here. Will it be above average temperatures? Yes. Now, if I saw this brown all the way out here, that would be unnerving. But we see it inside here. So where does that take us to then? Will it be an all earth-ending event? Perhaps not. They're going to try to sell it to you as such. So get ready for that. Oh, one other thing on the finance side. I don't know if you saw this today on the news. President Trump is going to decline NAFTA. All happening at all the time of this other trades are starting to unwind. So U.S., Mexico, Canada trade agreement, otherwise known as NAFTA, they're not going to renew it. So everybody's going to have to dissect and then come back in under the new agreement again. That's going to take a minute. But just the news of this, the preferential taxes, the preferential tariffs and all these things, not going to be valid anymore. So we could charge Mexico 50% tariffs again because the laws that were set up in NAFTA don't apply anymore. So they're trade-free, zero tariff between an auto manufacturer in Mexico, bring it up to America to sell. That's over. You manufactured in Mexico, bro, you're paying 100% to bring it over the border. This is huge news too. Like all these things coalescing in one particular week of time, right at our 250th anniversary, signaling at best here. And, just to put something in perspective. So over on the right, this is 1933 when gold was valued at $2.67 per ounce. So visually, you can see $1, like how much that is. That's $21 notes plus the change. 2026, it takes that many $1 notes to buy the same amount. Think about that for a second. What went wrong? And now all this is going to have digits to it that can move around without needing the paper anymore. It will not surprise me if we go away from all paper currency, like in China, there's no paper currency. That's 100% digital. As we go live in November, well, first on the test in July 8th, and then fully live in November of 2026, there's going to be a giant push to remove all cash out of the system worldwide. They're going to get you to turn in your paper notes. We're going to do away. We've already started to do away with the pennies. Nickels are next. Then you can melt those down for the value of the metal, which is twice as much as the coin face value is. We're going to do away with all paper, and we're going to go to a 100% digital system. And that's why I'm saying you're going to be captured then. Except for gold and silver, there's going to be nothing physical to trade in terms of paper, like that stuff. It's going to go away. So anyway, I appreciate you watching. Hope you got something out of the show tonight. Trying to keep it going with you. First avian flu fear mongering here in New South Wales, Australia. Just brush it off and tell them doesn't work on me, man. We've already seen this. Start paying for gold. Absolutely. Let me see. Who the F says aircon? It's AC or air conditioning. Dave just yaps BS. Well, maybe the aircon would dry my BS out, and then I'll make it into a patty, and then I can burn that, and then I can use my fan, and I can have biofuel for dung chips when I cook my barbecue. But I need AC. I need aircon to dry the dung out first. Okay. Perfect. Slim Fancy seeing you here, signing off for the night. The chupacabra, never saw one. Saw a translucent moving pyramid and something different beyond that. Hard to explain, man. I don't know what I saw. Here in Southwest Virginia is on the Highland solar farms now, some of the most historic. Yeah, Civil War battlefields, terrible, isn't it, like that? But anyway, please join us on buymeacoffee.com/civilization cycle. I don't have the QR codes queued up. I'm working on a different computer, traveling right now. My bad. I need to have a backup disk with all that stuff so I can plop it in there. The Canton crypto is not going to be used in tokenization. The Canton network is private. Yes, it is. It is on the exchanges, but you need to have a foreign exchange because most Americans can't get on the exchanges to buy it. It's available on some exchanges that are not open for American citizens. But you can get Canton coin. I assure you can. Price around 15 cents. Again, the tokenomics with that one, they mint as much as they're burning. And I think it's next year they're going to allow the burn rate to exceed the mint rate, which will be a deflationary tokenomic on that. And somewhere around 2029 or 8 is when they anticipate themselves, the developers, that the price should start creeping up. Because the usage of this one's also going to be involved in the tokenization. But I haven't seen, you're right, anything on how, like Stellar is going to be used, obviously, to wrap the package. They're going to wrap the contracts using Stellar lock. But Canton, I haven't seen anything on how they're actually going to use the Canton coin inside that ecosystem in terms of, you know, like using it as a, you can swap it using it as a payment like on the private chain, right? Otherwise, I don't know how they're going to use it either. But you can, I'm very sure you can get it elsewhere if you look. It's on all the exchanges. Binance has it, OKX, there's a whole bunch of other ones. There's one that starts with a G, I forget which one that is. Ask for contributions to refrain from using AI and get real person to do the translations. You don't need the videos. Good ask. Sassafras, drinking out oat straw tea, half a gallon a day. Stinging nettle, yeah, that's always a goodie for the vitamin C, half a quart a day. And you can eat the stinging nettle too. That's one of the highest plants containing vitamin C on the planet. By the way, stinging nettle, if you know what it looks for, that is forget the green leafy veg out of your garden. Go for the stinging nettle. And also, since the wild plant has a lot more minerals in it and things because it's growing. We lost a $10 million deal, ended the company. Yeah, that is terrible to hear. And 87. So if we come into one of these, again, there's going to be a quick wipeout. That capital will be reallocated into something else. Why is my hand? I guess my green screen fade wasn't working that good, but I'm bringing you the universe tonight. So anyway, thank you for joining me. It's over midnight. buymeacoffee.com/civilization cycle. Drop us a tip over there. I didn't check the Buy Me a Coffee while we're rolling through here. Also, civilizationcycle.com. I already got the show notes queued up from last week. I'll be sending those out in a minute after the show here. Capital gains, I don't pay no capital gains. Well, then you ain't gaining no capital unless you're off books, bro. You know, that's the whole thing. I was of the very same thing. Like, I don't want to pay no damn tax. Why should I, get on an exchange or make money or trade or do anything to pay tax? Until you realize you make more money when you have capital gains. It means you made money. And I know you got to give away some of the money, but you got 80% more money than you had when you weren't paying the capital gain when you were on that. So anyway, I'll see you all next week. Signing off for now. buymeacoffee.com/civilization cycle and civilizationcycle.com. Until next week, we'll see you next